I was asked to shoot this apartment for an agent recently, and here's the standard landscape format shot of the front room, but you'll notice up here there is an interesting gallery, which, if I show you the other view, will become more apparent. You go up these stairs to a kitchen area that's just above, but I really felt that I could only really do justice to this shot by coming up with a portrait format picture, shooting over the sofa, and showing more of the gallery at the top. I also did him another view, which was this side, again showing the gallery. Now, normally I would supply landscape format pictures to agents. The reason for this is that their websites are geared up for landscape only, and if you throw them portrait format, it tends to put a spanner in the works and they can't upload them. If they really do need portrait format pictures, I also shot an exterior on this job, which had to be portrait as well because the house was terraced. It used to be a bit of a pain because what I had to do was go into Photoshop, set them up a white slide and drop the portrait format shot onto the white slide and then send that over to them. Thanks to Lightroom, there's a slightly more elegant and certainly quicker solution to this problem, which I'd love to share with you in this session. It involves taking your image into the print module in Lightroom, and in the print module we can set up a JPEG file that's the correct proportions for a landscape photo but actually has a portrait photo dropped in onto it. And the recipe for this in Lightroom is what they call a single image or contact sheet package. Contact sheet will enable you to drop in several images here if you wanted to send off a group of images to the client, but we're after one single image dropped in. And the key step is to ensure that the page setup here is set to a page layout which is going to be the right proportions for your horizontal landscape shot. And I find the 10 by 15 centimeter or 4 by 6 inch print format is a good one to go for. So OK to that, and Lightroom has created a very nice white background and dropped our single image into the middle. I've asked for a stroke border of just half a point and in black to be included around the edge of the image. This is kind of useful if you had a very white ceiling, for example. You don't want to lose it because of tonal overlap with the background. So it just sets it off nicely with the keyline. I've set my margins in the supplementary instructions here to the minimum, but it's still set a little bit of a margin, which I think is no bad thing if you're dropping this into a website, to just actually continue that white around the edges of the image. And we have got obviously one row and one column. If you had multiple rows, then it would make the image smaller and you'd be able to include some of those other images as for a contact package. So one row and one column ensures there's just going to be one image dropped onto the white background. And moving on down through the options, that's given us a cell size or an image size of 3.75 by 5.75 inches. Again, that is our 3:2 ratio, but of course it's in portrait format and it's dropped in on the landscape image that's in 3:2 ratio. Moving down through these options, very important, we're not going to print to the printer, but we're actually going to print as a JPEG file. This is something that's just going to be emailed off to the client. I'm going to choose a resolution of 250 pixels per inch because that will enable my client to print this out at a fairly small size, 6 by 4 inches, 250 pixels per inch. They could run a print in their office if they needed to, but first and foremost this is for their website. I'm going to dial up some sharpening as well, high, as if for glossy paper, but I find that works quite well for when they're showing images on screen. And JPEG quality, I like to give it the best chance. I'm going to whack that up to maximum. When they come to uploading these images to their website, there's going to be some sort of processing change go on. So I think it's best to start with the best quality possible, and then they can dial up the JPEG compression to ease the delivery time. Moving down a little further, profile of course is going to be sRGB rather than Adobe RGB or ProPhoto, because sRGB is the color space that's favored by web applications and looks good in browsers. and that's all you really need to do. I have saved this here in my client jobs folder as a template. If you go to the plus sign in the template browser, you can give this a name and save that. So I've saved this as estate agent's portrait format. So whenever I click that, I'm going to, whatever images here that I have selected are going to be saved in this particular export format. And simply click print to file will save this in a particular folder. I actually have an images folder called export images only, and then the name of the agent that I'm working for, and I can save these out. They come out at about 0.5 MB, so they're emailable off to the client and they can upload them straight to their website. It's not always that I shoot portrait format for real estate photography, but I think it's quite useful to have that up your sleeve if you really have an image that can't be represented in any other way. It's a useful option to give to your agents, and doesn't involve the time that it used to take dropping this in a fresh white background in Photoshop.